Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, guys, welcome to the GO4SC2 on Friday. This time it is going to be number 304. Joining me today we will have Maverick. I'm of course Elmo, and observing will be done by the online gamer. And we are straight heading for our first game. And we are already in the quarterfinals. We decided to join in a little bit later because we messed up some things, but now we are live with our first game. And spawning in the top right hand side of Star Station, we will have our first player. From MYI, it is going to be Starbuck.
M-I-I? M-I-A.
MIA.
M-I-A, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, anyways.
Going through a bit of a drama of their own recently, I believe, but hopefully they've got all things sorted out. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner is my 3D's Nanaki. Not familiar with this player, but he's a Protoss, so I'm sure I'll enjoy what he's got to offer.
Absolutely. So we are looking at a PvC matchup here. Quickly gotta mute Skype here because that whipping is going on my nerves. But anyways,
Whipping?
yeah, of course, PvC matchup on Star Station, as I previously told. Usually you would see more macro-orientated games just because Star Station is such a big map. What are you thinking, Del?
Yeah, well, IEM Shanghai has really thrown some new builds into the works, especially against Zerg. Myung 6, although he wasn't the first to do it, he's popularized it more recently. Opening into up to 14 Phoenix was really powerful during that whole tournament. And I think Hero ended up even borrowing it towards the end, so you might see some heavy Phoenix play because it's so good on large maps.
Absolutely, I mean that is a pretty standard build we saw recently. Of course, Stargate is always very popular, or has always been very popular in PvC since the release of Heart of the Swarm. But let's see what Nanaki is opting here for. But of course, Starbuck is also a very good player, and I would not be surprised if he got something special up his sleeve. So far, he's just opting for a pretty standard quick fast expansion here. Quick fast expansion, yeah, there you go. And yeah, I actually even wouldn't be all that surprised if he went for a third fast hatch here. Because just because that map is so big and you have fast cross positions, it is not all that much, or not that big of a deal. But since we have a Nanaki opting for a gateway expansion here, I think just going with one hatchery is pretty fine there.
Yeah, we do see the gas stolen by Starbuck. I had it in my head that Starbuck was a Protoss player, and I have no idea why. I've casted 3 or 4 of his games, and it still just sticks in my head that he's a Protoss player.
Maybe
it's really weird.
Maybe you're thinking of Stardust.
Yeah, maybe I get them confused. Anyway, we see the gas being stolen by Starbuck, so that's kind of annoying, but the Zealot's out dealing with that. We got hatch first by Starbuck, and for Nanaki, we still haven't seen an expansion come down, so maybe opting for something fairly aggressive. Although there is a pylon to start the wall off, so maybe not.
He should be throwing down his Nexus any moment here as soon as he reaches 400 minerals. I mean, his probe is already going down there. Yeah, absolutely, he will throw down the Nexus. So
fairly
yeah,
late Nexus.
I mean, pretty overall, that's pretty much the standard timing you would see from a Nexus if you went for a gateway expansion here. Just because you just can't get it quicker if you don't want to delay any of your tech. So that's pretty much fine. Overlord is already being chased away here by Starbuck, but I think he might just barely get away. 3 shots off of dying there. The Stalker does not quite end him getting there. And yeah, now we see the wall-in is being completed here by Nanaki. Also, 1 Zealot is being sent out to capture the watchtower here. Both 2 links of Starbuck trying to do their best, but I don't think they will pretty much succeed here. They try to take on the Stalker, but the big old fat Stalker is saying, you shall not pass, and even takes out one of them.
+1 coming down for Nanaki. He does have that wall pretty secure, although that pylon on the left is a bit on the shaky side. I don't think we're going to see anything too super aggressive out of Starbuck this early. I think he's playing for the long haul. He's got 4 gases down already. Oh, no, sorry, 2 gases. I assumed the 2 in the main were taken, but they're not. The Queen's getting that creep spread going, and drones being transferred.
Absolutely, and he will now eventually be throwing down that, what's it called? Roach Warren, there you go. I'm forgetting all the names. Yeah, absolutely. That is a very standard play we see on Star Station. Usually, of course, you can also opt for lane muralisks because you have a lot of open airspace around the main bases. So that would also be a possible option. But of course, Roach Hydra also works fine. And another thing I want to point out here: Nanaki is actually going for a Warp Prism play. Now, since he's already moving out here a little bit, he might even be putting on some pressure to the third base here with that Warp Prism, and I like that play a lot. I mean, basically how the Warp Prism works, it is a freaking quick movable pylon if you basically bring it down to the bottom, and I just love that play if you really set up like a little bit of a siege here to the south of that third base. But maybe he will just also go for a drop here since he's already loading up a couple of units.
Yeah, really nice timing on this gateway here. Gateway research will finish up just as those extra gates come online. He'll have to go up to 6 gates, I believe, and then get that Warp Prism. He might be doing the sentry wall off at the main, sniping probes and tech buildings while there's no units in the main base. But he does only have 1 sentry at the moment. Ideally, you want to have 4, but he can warp them in, I guess, and they're already got enough energy for a force field once they hit. He's spotted that third hatchery now. Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Force field is just down in the nick of time, which means that all the queens and the roaches from the bottom of the ramp cannot get up into the main. But of course we have a couple of roaches here being produced in the main. But of course, workers will definitely die, at least a couple of them, because only 1 queen and 1 roach are here to defend, and he's already pulling them. A couple of them are already falling. Once again, another force field is going down to block that ramp, and that is just such an annoying position to be in for a Zerg player. It is just such a pain in the butthole to deal with such a situation because it is just so annoying. But now, as it seems, Nanaki has run out of force field, which allows a lot of units to get into the main, and we already see now a little bit of a surround move here by Starbuck, and eventually he should be able to clean up that build, and actually hasn't only lost 5 workers, so that is a quite nice ult here by him.
Yeah, I'm surprised at Nanaki only using those warp-ins for Zealots and Stalkers, now picking off a Queen maybe just to get that... the Queen gets transfused at the last moment. He's going to stay alive with so many transfuses. Finally going down, but sniping off more and more roaches. But yeah, I feel it was a mistake not to warp in more sentries there. And if I was Starbuck right now, I'd just go for the counter-attack and probably win. And I think that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's already going for the counter-attack here, already getting +1 upgrades. And I also wouldn't be surprised if he threw down a Hydralisk then here any moment, because I'm sure he cannot rely completely on a counter-attack. Of course it might do a lot of damage, because if we take a look at Nanaki's defenses, he only just got his Mothership Core, meaning that there will be no Photon Overcharge available, and also there's just 1 Stalker trying to hold up the front there, which means that the Stalkers can, the Roaches can easily run in there, take out the 2 Warp inserts and get a lot of things done here. The Photon Cannon also will not finish in time, meaning that a lot of workers will die here.
Yeah, the Mothership Core is there, but she does way too little damage to pick off that many roaches in any sort of reasonable time. Photon Overcharge is still a ways away in terms of energy, and I think we're seeing a GG play fairly soon, unless you can get a whole bunch of Immortals out, but yeah, I think this is it.
Well, I mean, eventually Nanaki might be able to hold that one temporarily, but I'm pretty sure he will lose his Nexus here in trade for that. And if we take a look at the Zerg player space, Starbuck is already getting his fire up in a quite weird position. Okay, he decides to go for the GG. Anyways, I mean, pretty nice defense there by Starbuck, minimizing his losses, even though he was trapped in a pretty awkward situation there, with his force field down on the ramp. And yeah, eventually just the counter attack was a little bit too much there for Nanaki.
Yeah, great play, but I think maybe 1 or 2 more, what are they called, sentries, and it would have been fine. I'm getting an error. Input limit reached. Please wait to perform more actions.
Oh, that's bad.
What does that even mean?
By the way, I have another lobby invite, so you guys can join on me. Awesome. Yeah, so
Alrighty.
we are, of course, once again in the best of 3s. And meaning that, of course, Nanaki is not yet out, but Starbuck looked pretty dominant. And also to get back once again to what you've actually mentioned there, I think he just doesn't have he just didn't have the gas by that time to warp in a couple additional sentries because I wasn't actually paying attention to his minerals and stuff like that. But as I looked on the mineral indicator thing after the push, he was sitting at like 70 gas. And I figured he wasn't really building anything gas related. So he might just have very well not had the gas to be able to warp in a couple of additional sentries there.
Yeah,
That
very
might have been
true.
the case.
It may have been worth delaying the attack then for maybe just a few seconds to get that gas up and more sentries, because that build really relies heavily on blocking that ramp basically indefinitely until you can do the economic damage that evens out the attack or gives you an advantage, and then you can pack up as many sentries, leave the zealots there to kill whatever they can, and then fly home. But yeah, unfortunately, he just didn't have enough sentries. Basically, what it boils down to.
Absolutely, that is very true, and that of course allowed Starbuck to get back up his ramp, and then it was just a matter of seconds until that push got cleared out. Alright, Starbuck is back from his business things, and I think we are good to go for game number 2 here in any moment. Map of choice, by the way, will be GO4SC2 here from, I don't know if it's a loser's choice or if the maps have been vetoed before that. Maybe I could check that in the rules, but I'm too lazy right now.
It's a fairly even map. I don't think it favors Protoss or Zerg. I do like, as a Protoss, the amount of nooks and crannies to hide pylons. It can be very hard to find all of those hidden proxy pylons for warp-ins or tech, or proxy stargates, proxy even robos sometimes. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Alright, so both players are just loading into the game. Starbuck apparently has a PC which is made of probably most of wood. Now he finally also finished loading and we are good to go. Let's introduce our players. Spawning in the top left hand side of GO4SC2, it is going to be the purple Protoss player from MY3D. It is the man who's currently down 1 game. It is Nanaki.
And in the top left, sorry, bottom right, spawning as the blue Zerg player is MIA's Starbuck.
Yeah, and he is currently up 1 game, so he might very well finish the series here with a clean 2-0 if he ends up taking that game. So let's see what both players are opting for. And by the way, did you realize that they switched colors? I bet you didn't.
No, I did not.
They did. Oh my god.
That's a little weird.
I'm confused now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh well. So yeah, we see not much going on right now, but so the new patch is out. What do you think of the effects, Elmo?
I mean, there are a lot of good additions. For example, that zoom feature. That is what I got the most excited of. I mean, I tried it out a couple of times. It works perfectly. It is just awesome. But the side effect that we experienced yesterday is that all the chat channels were broken. I mean, not the chat channels, but the group and stuff like that. The groups were broken. And that was really, really pesky because I was hosting the Poison Hots tour yesterday. And usually we use a chat channel to organize things and blah blah blah. And since that one was broken, we first of all had to redirect all the players into a chat channel. And that was of course a lot of work, but I think it turned out quite nicely. But anyways, that's just my thoughts there. By now everything is finished or fixed. No more broken group chat channels or whatever those things are called. Everything is working by now. And yeah, we see pretty much once again a pretty similar opening to what we saw in the previous game. I think the only addition is that Starbuck actually decided to go for his gas a little bit earlier, if I'm not completely mistaken. And I think that's a pretty smart move because the map is a lot smaller than, for example, Star Station. So going for speed links early on can get you quite some advantages. Of course, only if the Protoss player decides to go for a fast or quick third base, or for an early push or something like that. Because if he just sits there on his 2-base economy and turtles a little bit, those speed links of course won't help you anything. So let's see what both players are opting for here.
Yeah, I'm expecting well, you know, some 3-gate pressure maybe from I nearly said Starbuck because I thought he was a Protoss. From Nanaki, and maybe some Ling Bling Muta. We'll see. Really aggressive map, I think. It usually boils down to kind of going into a macro-ish game, and then both players just going heavy on aggression because they've decided that it's too small or things are getting a bit too rough.
That might be very well true. I mean, also, of course, Ling Mutalisk player, as you just mentioned, is powerful in that map because you have the option to be very, very pesky with bouncing between the natural and the main base there. And also you have a lot of open airspace to the south of the main base, or respective to the north, depending on which side you're looking at. So, yeah, but of course also Ling Roaches has to be proven, or has been proven to be, my English is bad, to be very, very effective on that map, just because you have a lot of open areas. I mean, especially the big, large area in between the fourth base and the watchtowers. It is a lot of space where you can do a lot of things with your Roach Hydra army. And also, since the map is not the biggest of all those maps, creep spread and getting a good creep spread is not all that hard.
We do see some Lings pushing into the natural here, going to try and snipe down that pylon, and they may actually get it. There's only one sentry and a stalker here defending, and they're not going to do enough damage to that many. And then the last minute force field finally goes down, but that pylon is going to be the weak link in the chain for quite a while. Warpgate finishing up, so he's probably going to have enough resources for a few more units. Actually, he's banking quite a bit of minerals right now.
Yeah, I think eventually he should be fine now with the second sentry joining the fray here. He should be careful though not to lose the Stalker, but eventually now he has enough units to deal with those couple of initial circlings there. And behind all of that, Starbuck is going to go for his third base, and once again he will throw down his Roach Warren, which of course might just be an indicator for Roach Hydra, but of course it also just may mean that he is going for the Roaches as some sort of a safety net in case of any early aggressions by Nanaki.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. We do see 5 roaches, up to 6 roaches coming out now, so he's aware of this counterattack coming up, probably thinking he's been droning too hard, but he did have just the right amount of lava ready to spawn some defensive units. 10 Lings, 8 roaches on the way, so this attack is going to get shut down fairly quickly.
Absolutely, and also now with the Queen's transfuses are available, units are now charging forward. Nice force field though, blocking the retreat path of the roaches, and also the force fields here blocking some surface area, but eventually the Lings will get a nice round. Also the drones are being pulled. I don't really think that would have been necessary, but eventually, of course, with the help of the drones, that attack will be cleaned up quite convincingly here by Starbuck.
Yeah, Stalker's just a terrible unit against roaches and even Lings at some points. If you can micro those Stalkers really well, they'll escape the Lings, but we can see them getting chewed apart. Although, and this is where Zealots come into their own.
Absolutely, now we see the last couple of units being cleaned up. Also the warp in pylons will be taken out here. And as a reaction to that, we see 7 more drones being constructed here by Starbucks. I think they are already down to the third base there, so he's planning on saturating that one as well. And I think we're pretty much set up for the mid or later mid game here. Starbuck is already throwing down his tier 2 tech, locking of course them Hydralisks, and then he might get on his Roach Hydra position quite quickly here.
Yeah, going up to Lair as you said, with 2 more gateways coming down for Nanaki. He's in a bit of trouble here at this front wall off. These roaches are slowly picking off all of his forces, and they've really they've really traded well. The roaches that he did produce, reinforcements coming in from the south, having to split up these gateway units to deal with both groups of roaches.
I really like the micro by Starbuck, by the way. He's always pulling the weakened roaches back, or he's at least trying to. And therefore, of course, he's minimizing his losses and maximizing the efficiency of his units there. And we now see him pushing forward once again, maybe even trying to take out a couple of pylons here. That would be extremely annoying. I don't really think that he could get into that base and maybe get a couple of workers. That's just too few units to do that.
No Mothership Core here as yet for Nanaki, which is really surprising, as the Mothership Core is such an amazing defensive unit. Every Protoss player and basically every Protoss build against every race has got the Mothership Core built into it, just because it's so very useful in so many situations.
Absolutely, and especially in the early stages of the game, it provides a lot of defensive capabilities, for example with the Photon Overcharge or the Time Warp, or maybe even the Mass Recall, just because you are so quickly and so movable. And also, if you want to use it offensively, you can basically maneuver yourself into the worst situations possible, and you will just always get alive out of there if you have enough energy. So that's a very nice unit. I don't really know why Nanaki is deciding to skip it. But anyways, we have once again a little bit of a push out here, this time mainly Stalkers and Zealots, no sentries. But I think they could be so effective here. But by now I think it's overall not looking good for Nanaki. He has still not thrown down his third base there, and he's also down by 70 supply, if I get my maths right.
Yeah, it's huge. We do see Roach
Overlord
speed.
Dance. Sorry.
I think Nanaki knows there are how many? 30 Roaches on the map. Speed is just about done. These gateway units are going to get destroyed. And the Roach dance. Yeah, that's
awesome. He was also dancing his Overlord before, just a little bit there, as he was about to die. By the way, I really love that new Overlord dance. It is just so amazing.
hideous.
Anyways, yeah, Starbuck will eventually be advancing out of there and will meet up with the winner of My Insanity Stand-Up versus Dragon for our second semi-final. And also we have currently Adonimus, sorry, and Senin for another quarterfinal, and also Lodi will be meeting Revenge or Sasu from Max Flow in his quarterfinal. So a lot of games should be available here for us. So I'd say
Indeed.
Let's fire up some music while we are organizing our next game here. And yeah, I hope you stay tuned and don't go too far away.
Into the streets, we're coming